Hey there, my name is Brashler, and in this video, I'm going to teach you about the Ultimo Compressor on the Behringer X32 and how to actually use this in a mix. I have a treat for you. I'm going to be using it on a vocal and also a bass guitar in a certain way to get a little bit more growl out of the bass guitar. Now, if you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident in your production gear no matter where you're starting from. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, the Ultimo Compressor, there's two versions on the Behringer X32. There's the dual Ultimo compressor and the stereo Ultimo compressor. The dual Ultimo compressor allows us to have two channels of Ultimo compressor, and the stereo allows us to insert it on a stereo channel and have the same compressor on one stereo channel. So to do this, we can go ahead and hit the effects button, and then we can get to our effects home. And what we would do is we would go find one of the effects insert channels, so effects racks 5 through 8, and effects racks 1 through 4 are for more time-based effects, but we can use the Ultimo compressor on effects racks 1 through 4 or 5 through 8. So all 8 effects racks can use the Ultimo compressor. Once we do that, we would go ahead and rotate until we get to the Ultimo comp. The dual Ultimo comp is the one that I want. And then once we have that, we can go and select what channel we actually want to insert this on. So for instance, I have my vocal 1 on channel 11. So I'm going to go rotate this insert until we get to channel 11. I'm going to select that channel, and then I would then insert it on this channel. So now this channel is inserted into my effects racks 5 on my A side of the dual Ultimo. And then we would do the same thing for the B side, and then the rest of our Ultimo comps that you want to use, you would do the same routing. Once we have that, you can go ahead and press edit, and then we can actually see our Ultimo comp. So we can see that there's 2 layers. There's a layer up for layer A and a layer down for the second channel, or the B side. Now to use this, I'm going to start on the A side, and there's a couple options that we have here. Now the Ultimo comp is an emulation of the 1176 limiting compressor. Now this is a classic compressor, and it is one of my favorite compressors to use on a vocal. Now there is an input gain and an output gain, an attack time, a release time, and our ratio. Now notice there is no makeup gain on this, and there's no threshold adjustment on this. Now we technically do have a makeup gain with our out gain, and we technically can adjust our threshold level by using our input gain. So this compressor utilizes a fixed threshold compressor. So threshold is right here, and we have our audio, which is my hand right here. Now, as I increase this input gain up and down, I am adjusting my audio level up and down. And so in essence, if I wanted to have more compression, I would need to increase the input gain. Now, by doing that, I am turning up my audio and having this set threshold point start adjusting some of my peaks. At the same time, I would need to lower the output gain. And I actually have a great blog post over on my website at drewbrashler.com, which I will link down in the description below, that talks about how to get a unity gain setting on our input and output. And it also shows some smart curves that I did on this compressor as well. Now, with this, if I increase the input gain, I need to decrease the output gain to have a similar sound level, because I want to have a nominal gain through my entire signal chain. I don't want to be adding a ton of gain in one spot and not much gain in another. So to really check this as we are doing this, what my favorite button to do is increase my input gain and adjust my output gain and turn on and off my active, which will insert and uninsert this plugin on my vocal. And so I can see at what point is my output gain sufficiently even. That way, if I uninsert this effect on my channel, it will still be a similar gain level. Now, we also have our attack and release times. Now, the attack and release knobs are not in time. It just shows a number. And the number is actually backwards. So the lower this number, the slower the attack. Same thing with the release. The lower the number on the release, the slower the release. The higher the number, or the farther that we get over to the right-hand side of this, the faster the attack is. So if I wanted to have a fast attack and a fast release, I would have these up at 7. Now, this is an extremely fast compressor. So we are talking less than a millisecond when we are up at the 7 range. And so this is a very fast compressor. So if you wanted to have a very fast compression attack, then we would have our attack up at 7. Now, a good spot to have this on a vocal is an attack of 3 and a release of 7. Those are usually my starting points for mixing this on a vocal. Now we also have our ratio. Now this is just like a normal compression ratio on a channel. We have 4:1, 8:1, 12:1, 20:1, and then we have this mode called all. Now this is called a all buttons mode, and it does some crazy stuff, and I'm going to show that to you on the bass channel later. But for vocals, my favorite setting on this is actually a 12:1 ratio. So I always set this at 12:1. So these are pretty much my input and outputs settings for my compressor here. So we would see that I have an input gain around here, and output gain around there. And then we have our attack and release at 3 and 7 and a ratio of 12. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and uninsert this and let you guys listen to my mix here that I have. So I'm going to uninsert, uninsert, and uninsert. So here is my mix that I have of this song. Here we go. Now I do have some channel compression on this that's just doing a little bit of compression. So right there, we can hear that our vocal 5 is our lead here, and I definitely have her boosted up and centered in the mix. The rest of my vocals I have panned on the right and the left. But you could hear when our vocal 5 really was getting into her mic, it was a lot louder than the rest of the stuff that she was saying. And when I am mixing a vocal, I'm wanting to have all of the nuances of that vocalist present in my mix. So I do a lot of compression so that all of the nuances of that vocalist are in my mix. So let's listen to that one section again here. Right there, kind of low. And that's loud. Okay, so the goal of compression is to limit the peaks and then bring up the volume of the rest of the channel. Now, with that being said, if you have a channel that is prone to feedback, say I have my vocal 6 here and I have it at 0, and if I increase this vocal mic in my house with the vocalist up on stage, and if I happen to get it up to 5 and then it starts feeding back, then that means that I can only add 5 dB of gain to this channel before it'll start feeding back earlier. So with compression, anytime you use compression and add output gain, makeup gain on the dynamic section of the channel or in our Ultimo Compressor, you are lowering your gain before feedback. So when I add output gain here, or also on my dynamic section, if I add output gain here, it's the same thing as me taking my fader and turning it up. Now, if I put 5 dB of gain here, it's the same thing as me taking this fader and turning it up by 5. Now, if I take this up to 10 dB, it's the same thing as me taking my fader all the way to the top up to 10 dB of gain. So if you have a microphone channel that is prone to feedback, try to limit the amount of compression you're adding. But for the most part, the compression that I'm doing is in live rooms, and I haven't had much of an issue yet. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's go ahead and add in this compression. So I am going to go ahead and turn this compression on from this side, and we can listen to that section here. So here is the section without compression, just so it's fresh in our heads. All right, so now let me go ahead and add in this compression here. Okay, and let's listen to this section again.
People from every nation, people from every nation, from generation to generation, we worship you. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Okay, one more time.
People from every nation, people from every nation, from generation to generation, we worship you. Hallelujah.
Okay, one time without our compression, and then we'll dial this thing in.
People from every nation, people from every nation, from generation to generation, we worship you.
Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and actually dial in these compressors. I'm going to go ahead and start with my vocal 5 here, and I am going to press edit. And the benefit of the way that the effects rack works on the X32 is if I have my effects button pressed, as I navigate through my channels that have effects racks inserted, it will go ahead and pull up the different effects. So we can see that if I select my vocal 1, it'll pull up vocal 1. If I select my vocal 3, it'll select the correct effects rack and vocal 3, and same with vocal 5. So let's go ahead and start dialing this in.
People from every nation, from generation.
Now, we can see one thing
Come on
is
and lift
as
it
I'm
up. We
making this
worship.
active or not active, I'm not adding a ton of gain. So I actually sounds like it's a little bit less. But let's go ahead and dial this in. So remember, we want to increase the gain to get more compression. So I'm going to dial in a little bit more compression on her.
Come on and lift it up. We worship. Hallelujah. Oh.
Now, one thing about the way that I mix is that I am a vocal forward mixer. So I like to have my vocals really present in the front of the mix, but then also have a very good bass foundation of the rest of the music that's sitting behind the vocals. That way, when an audience member is listening to my mix, they are hearing the vocals nice and present, but also having a very good amount of band supporting the vocals. I don't want to have the vocals super far out, but I also don't want to have them sitting back in the mix, kind of hidden within the band. Most of the bands that I'm mixing want that vocal to be pretty far forward. So I do that by putting in a pretty good amount of compression. So on the Ultimo compressor, I am targeting probably about -10 dB of gain reduction or more when the vocalist is at their very loudest. Now, I know this sounds like a lot of compression, and it is, but the way that I get my vocal forward in my mix is by putting in a good amount of compression. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these vocals set with their compressors as well.
People from every nation and tongue, from generation to generation, we worship you. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Okay.
We worship you for who you are. Yeah. People from every nation and tongue, from generation to generation, we worship you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We worship you for who you are. We worship you. Hallelujah.
People from every nation and tongue, from generation to generation, we worship you. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Okay, let's go ahead and listen to this mix. And my vocals here. Let's go ahead and go back to that one first section here and listen to this set without the compressors inserted. Okay, here it is.
People from every nation. People from every nation and tongue. From generation to come on and lift it up. We worship. We worship you. Hallelujah.
The hallelujah is a little bit back in that mix here. So let's go ahead and listen to this same section again with the compressors. Now, again, this is adding gain because we are compressing and then boosting this. So we're bringing up kind of a lot of sound into it. So we are hearing a little bit more gain than we were before. But remember, as I was going through, I am inserting and uninserting this effect to make sure that the overall volume is the same. So I'm not adding a ton of gain overall. But let's go ahead and listen to this.
People from every nation. People from every nation and tongue. From generation to generation. We worship. We worship you. Hallelujah. 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 We worship you. Who you are. Yeah. We worship you. Yeah. We worship you. Hallelujah. 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 We worship you. Who you are. You are good. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Come on, he's so good. So good. So good. Come on, say it.
All right.
Yes, you
So the next thing that I want to teach you guys about the Ultimo Compressor is using this on a bass guitar. Now, the bass guitar here, I am adding a bunch of compression on the channel, and I'm going to deactivate that so that we can listen to it with the Ultimo Compressor. But what I'm doing is with this Ultimo Compressor is I am going to add a good amount of compression, but have the attack and release time as fast as it will go. And then I'm going to set this ratio to an all buttons mode. Now, what this does is because it is super fast attack and super fast release with a ton of compression, is this is going to add some digital artifacts from this compressor that almost sounds like distortion or grit. Now, if you have a bass guitar that doesn't have a ton of fret noise or picking noise or string noise, this is a perfect way of adding that. In fact, this bass guitar, you can see that I am adding a ton of EQ to try and get this to be more present in the mix. So let's go ahead and listen to this bass guitar and just see what this thing sounds like. Now, I have disabled my compressor and my EQ to give you a sense of what this bass sounds like. Now, it's fine. It's just not really life-giving for me. It's a fine bass guitar. But if we want this to sit in the rest of the mix, it's going to get pretty lost. Okay? And so what I'm going to end up doing is adding in this insane amount of EQ to really target some more of that fret and string noise that I'm looking for. I'm trying to get this to get a little bit more of a growl sound in this mix to make it a little bit more present. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this EQ in a second and you'll hear it. Here it is with. So here's the bass guitar. Here's without the EQ. So I am doing a ton of boosting. I realize that. Don't call me out on it. If it sounds good, it is good, right? All right, so let's go ahead and actually get this effect going. So what I am going to do with this Ultimo compressor on the bass guitar is have this on all buttons mode for the ratio, which has an insane limiting sound to it. The other thing that I'm going to end up doing is having my attack and my release time as fast as they will go. So this combination of a very fast attack, a very fast release, and a lot of ratio for your compression will create the sound of distortion, which it is actually just this sampling sound that we have because of the way that the compressor is working with the audio. So we're not actually adding distortion, but we are adding distortion. I know that that sounds kind of weird, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and activate this with our bassist. So there it is with it on. Here's with it off. On. And so we can hear just a little bit more of a growl to it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and bring in the full band here and turn it off for now. And here it is with. With it off. With it on. So again, we have taken this bass guitar that sounds like this and made it this. Now, I realize there's a bunch of gain that I just added here, so let's listen to it with that same amount of volume. So this is what it was before, and here it is with active. And actually adding this in, I probably don't need to make as much of a boost here to get that high end in it. There we go. So here it is with the mix.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Come on, he's so good. So good, so good. Come on, say it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So good. You are good all the time. And all the time. You are good. You are good all the time. Yes, you are. And all the time. You are good. You are good all the time. Yes, you are. And all the time. We bless you. You are good. We give you praise. You are good all the time. And all the time. You are good. Come on and clap your hands. We serve an awesome God, the true and living Savior, Jesus. We bless you.
Now, I hope this video was helpful for you today. If you do happen to have any questions, or if there's a video that you're hoping that I would make on the X32 or really any of the other production equipment that's out there, please post that in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are going to be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com, where I do have that Ultimo Compressor article on there talking more deeper in about the Ultimo Compressor. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day.